This is the President McCormack Podcast with your host, Mark McCormack.
My friend Aaron Zeyer, welcome to the podcast.
No, thank you.
It's always fun because we always talk for like 10 minutes before we start getting like all the fun stuff. So welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here. This is a surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I've had the dream to do a podcast probably for 2-3 years, and I finally just freaking making it happen.
There you go. So, what episode is this?
So you are probably the 9th or 10th that I've recorded, and I've got about 14 that are booked and ready to go, or booked to record, and so we start dropping them in 2 weeks.
Cool.
Of August. So today's July 23rd. Today, 20th, 22nd.
Today's 22nd.
22nd. Yeah, they're just starting to flow together now that I've turned 40.
You're just a youngin'. You're a youngin'.
How old are you right now?
I'll be 42 in November.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're only one. So I turned 41 in October. So you're
just a little bit.
You're a 99 guy?
Yep. Graduated in 99.
Nice. What high school?
Melba, Idaho. Melba, Idaho. It's where all the Melba toast is made. You know Melba toast?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we make all of it.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, I love it, dude. I love Idaho, man. I've got the shop up in Shelley right now where we do all the stuff. So I go up there all the time, and we hit the Rexburg side. We go up to Sugar City, all that kind of stuff where the food's at and the people.
Oh yeah, that Shelley. That's a big time there.
Yeah, we have very limited options there. My partner actually had a barbecue restaurant there for a quick minute, but it didn't work out. The chef didn't work out very well. So, but yeah, right. So how long have you been in Utah?
Oh, golly. It was probably, I think it was like 2008 or 9 is when I moved down the first time. Yeah. Had a little stint where I moved back to Boise and then came back down.
So what company were you working for when you moved down here?
So it was Apex Vivint back then. Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I was installing for them for years. I was a regional. Yeah. Then I was designing on the side for them for free, just because I enjoyed it, and they asked me to go full time and move down. Yeah. So
very cool. So did you go to Boise State?
No, I went to BYU, Idaho, or Rick's before my mission, and then BYU, Idaho after.
Gotcha. Well, Boise State's your...
Yeah, well, and that's all you got. So growing up, that was all you had, and Boise State wasn't really anything big when we were kids. Yeah. And then when it came time, I want to pick a college team to go for, my family was all BYU, and I was just being who I was in our family, it's I'm going Boise. That's hometown, and just to razz you guys.
Why not, dude?
Yeah, so that's...
Well, I'm a UVU fan.
There you go.
So we're currently on top of BYU because we beat them last year on our home court basketball.
BSU's beat BYU the last 2 years in a row.
Have they?
Yeah.
Yeah. BYU is an awesome program. I don't know if I can say they're on their way up.
I think they're going to be something decent in the future, maybe.
Yeah. We'll see what they can put together. No, it was actually, so on the basketball side, it was interesting because, so I graduated from there, and I've served on a bunch of boards down there and stuff. And so when Coach Pope was down there, me and him became friends, and he ended up, being the coach for a couple of years, and he moved to BYU. And now we have, Coach Matson, Mark Mad Dog Manson.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It's good guy after good guy, and
Do you talk to Pope much since he's gone to BYU? Because I've heard mixed things. A lot of people don't. There's a lot of people that don't like him all very much, and then other people.
Over the Y?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Y has an insane expectation for their coaches.
Bronco
Hall, they ran out of town, and the dude was a guaranteed.
And they didn't realize until it was gone. But I guess Sataki's great. But yeah.
No, I guess it's good to have a passionate fan base, right?
Yeah.
This year, so the Shamrock series is BYU versus Notre Dame.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that was gonna be a thing, but yeah.
So I ended up, I have Raider season tickets, right? So I got the pre-sale stuff, and so one of my good buddies wanted to go to that thing, so I got him tickets and sent them over to him and stuff, and it's that is actually pretty cool. BYU versus Notre Dame.
No, it's great.
Like, that's a fun game.
That could be a great rivalry, like an ongoing thing if they could pull it together.
So I'll tell you a funny story. So Utah plays Notre Dame, right? So Utah football is kind of like the team I like to follow, right?
Yeah.
Like Utah, football. Most of the reason why is because when I was a teenager, the freight company my parents used to use was Yellow Freight back then, and they would sponsor a tailgating event. And I could bring as many friends as I wanted, and they would just hand us tickets because they were horrible back then. Right? like 90s. And then some of my best friends from high school, they were definitely big Ute fans. And so we ended up going to just a ton of Ute games. We went to a lot of BYU games too, but a ton of Ute games. And it's just funny how, like, here in Utah, I mean, I like the rivalries that are inside Utah, but outside of Utah, if you're playing anywhere, dude, I'm all about any Utah school.
Yeah.
In fact, even Boise State gets kind of lumped into that. Boise State played Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Even though I had a friend on Oklahoma, right? CJIU, right? I was like, come on, Boise. You know what I mean? Like,
no, and that's what I tell people. Like, I'm a BYU fan, and unless they're playing BSU,
right?
Then man, it was a blast last year at the BYU game. Yeah. Like, I was the only one BSU stuff. And it was rough. I felt bad for BYU fans because they were on trajectory, and BSU did not have a good crew that year. Yeah. And when they beat them, like, I had never been yelled at and heckled and called names like at a BYU game ever like that.
The opposite of love.
Oh yeah, the opposite of love. But yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun. I have no real stake in it. Like, I don't get angry.
Yeah.
But
you're not gonna go home and yell at your wife.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's just fun to have a team to go for.
Oh, so I gotta tell you. So Utah plays Notre Dame a few years ago, right? So we all fly out there, and I do a lot of business in Indiana. That's where we actually make most of our athletic equipment. So the owner of the company that we work with over there, I invited him to go to the game. And he invites two other guys, and then they end up getting tickets. So we are like in the alumni section, right by the goal line, but kind of like where it starts to sweep, right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever been to Notre Dame?
I've been there, yeah.
Have you been to the stadium?
Just do outside of it and just walk through town.
Is like on a 9-inch long, like wood.
Oh, that's your seat?
Oh yeah, my legs are wrapping around the dude in front of me, and his legs are wrapping around me. It is tight, right? So I've got my poncho because it rains there a lot, right? I'm the only Ute fan in that whole freaking section, right? Because it is all alumni of Notre Dame, and they're hardcore, right? Also, all of them were probably 60 and above. Okay? So we sit down. And I think Utah might have been undefeated, or they only had one loss, and Notre Dame was kind of like even, right? Maybe 3-3 or 4-4, whatever it was. And me, I'm kind of loud and fun, and I'll talk to anybody kind of thing. And so we're sitting there, and I'm just like, "Oh, you guys ready for your butt beating you're about to receive?" And everyone's kind of laughing, Plus, I'm big, so no one.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I'm like, no one's gonna say 6'4" dude.
Who is this guy? And so Utah scores first, right? And I think it was right in front of us. It's better for the story if it's right in front of us. Yeah. So I'm like trying to high five everybody, and the guys I'm with are laughing, and they're all drinking. Actually, they weren't drinking. They were drinking before because it was college. Now that I think about it, but people were like, I can tolerate this bro for a minute, right? And then we got our teeth kicked in, like 35 or 42-7. It was a beat down from then on out. And they gave it back to me, And literally, dude, like after the game, I was like shaking people's hands. It was fun. It was like all these guys, and they heckled me for the next 3 quarters, right? I mean, they gave it to me, which I deserved. And as I'm walking out, the attendant at the end of there, right, up and down Notre Dame, just the whole thing. He reaches his arms out. He's like 90 years old. I give him a hug. He gives me a hug, and he goes, "I hope the next time you come to Notre Dame, you see a better result." And I've never felt more loved in a football stadium in my entire life. And so now when I see Notre Dame, I kind of have this little thing that little old 90-year-old guy just makes me endear myself to Notre Dame.
No, that's great. That's a great memory.
In my whole life, dude, I got these little weird things that happen to me all the time because I disengage people.
Yeah, no, it's truth. No, that's how it starts.
Yeah, absolutely. So you moved to Utah, and you're doing graphic design, which is what you're good at.
I wouldn't say I'm good at it. Like honestly, no, I have this talk with your brother Mark or your brother Brett all the time. Is like, I know I'm not a great graphic designer, but I feel like I'm a better creative problem solver than most graphic designers. Does that make sense? Like, I see the problem, or I see the hole that needs to be filled, and where design can help that. Yeah. But
so give me a good example of that.
It's kind of like looking at somebody's or helping people understand brand versus your logo. Yeah. Or helping them kind of look deeply into what that logo or brand, what your goal is, and things like that, of like trying to figure out what the actual problem is or what you're actually trying to do. Yeah. And then that's when the design stuff starts happening. And I don't feel as strong in graphic design as there's way really good graphic designers out there. I'm competent. I put it at that, as I'm competent. I can get the job done. Yeah. But I think I thrive and I enjoy more of figuring out the actual problem, the real problem of what's going on. For example, when I went to SafeStreets, when I changed jobs and went to SafeStreets, they're ADT provider. They sell ADT across the country. They're the largest ADT provider in the country. And when we went in there, and I was kind of hinting like, hey, you kind of need to update brand, you need to update things, and sitting down with them to try to figure out what I felt what needed to be their brand, not just their logo, but their brand. And I asked them, well, what's your product? And they're like, well, it's ADT security. I'm like, no, it's not your product. What's your product? Like, well, it's home security and automation. I'm like, no, that's ADT's product. What's your product? And I was goosing them, trying to realize, like, you need to figure out who you are, and their product is the experience of getting ADT security. Because we don't pick the recurring monthly revenue of what it costs the customer. We don't pick the equipment. It's all ADT. Everything's ADT. And so the only thing we have control over is that experience of getting ADT. And like, that's what we need to own. That's who we are at SafeStreets, is that experience. Right. And so that completely changed it to where we're able to focus on that. I mean, we went from 100 reviews across the country type of thing, and now we have more reviews, and we have a 4.9 star rating than any home security company in the complete country. Yeah. So, I mean, we're able to focus on that and just explode it. And so that's what I enjoy doing, is like figuring out what the real problem is with a brand. And people kind of lump that logo thing in with it. We're like, well, logos, that's something else. A brand is who you are. A logo is just something to identify yourself. Right.
Especially because logos change all the time too.
Yeah, logos can change, and that's the other thing I tell people, is like, they always start off really complicated logos, and over time you see them simplifying it. Yeah. I mean, the same thing with, like, you look at Nike's, it just got simpler and simpler and simpler, and you can do that with recognition by paying your dues, but then it also shows you that, like, it's not really that necessary. A lot of it's not necessary. Yeah.
Like one brand I've always looked at was interesting was Starbucks.
Yeah.
Starbucks' original brand was really complicated. And now it doesn't even say Starbucks.
Yeah.
It's just like a little,
I mean, and that's a luxury. That's a luxury you earn over time. Yeah. But with these change of times, I mean, I don't think it's necessary to start off complicated anymore, to try to say in this little space, say everything about you, like my name, when we started, what we do, or trying to make it gimmicky. So it's like, ooh, this X really turns into this thing. And because with social media, I mean, you're able to look as big as you ever wanted to with a little bit of effort. And yeah, I think a lot of times people invest too much into a logo and not enough in branding. Yeah. But yeah, so back to the things, like, I don't feel like I'm a strong graphic designer. I feel like I enjoy branding, and I enjoy that discovery part, and then trying to find something that works. But yeah, and all the things that graphic designers do with ad layouts and all that, it's not as fun for me, type of thing.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I mean, and you've obviously, branded a bunch of stuff for me and created some things. Like currently, so let's take Free Flow Brands. As I said, that as clear as I possibly can. Yeah,
no, I tell you, that was my biggest hang up on that logo. But yeah,
it's hard to say, right? See, it's kind of funny, man, because like when you start, like I'm like the operations guy / financial guy, right? And so when I have an idea, if my partners aren't like overly creative, it gets really simple because I'm just like, pick a name, find a URL that matches the name so we don't have to deal with that mess later, and let's go. And so, I mean, I swear half the battle is finding a URL that matches whatever your vision is, right? And so I have a lot of weird names. Like my holdings company is Takashi Capital. Yeah. And the reason why I did that is because when I acquire businesses, I want it to look like it's a foreign business that's acquiring them. And it works. Yeah. Especially when I'm buying them inside the industry, right? Because sometimes you don't want your competitors to know that you're buying up another competitor and then, trying to expand your footprint in an industry. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. I don't have a logo for Takashi Capital. What do you need one? Why would you need one? Yeah, so that's T or something, right? Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, logos are, especially when it's smaller companies or if it's something that's not it's very personal thing. I'll tell people like right now, at this moment in time, the only person that cares is you. Right. Like even for the first few years, the people you're going to be doing work with don't care what your logo is. Yeah. And so I'm like, that's what I'll tell people. I'm like, I'll be pushing for what in general is going to be appealing to the most amount of people, but really I'm just here to please you. Right. And so I tell people like, oh, I'm not creative. I don't know. But I'm like, you get up and dress yourself every day. You know what you'd like. And I'll compare it to a car. I'll be like, there's a Mazda 626. I bought a Mazda 626 back when I first thought I was getting married. And I'm like, oh, this is practical. I got rid of my Jeep. And I'm like, you got to get a Mazda 626. Every time I got in that car, I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Yeah. And even though it was the more practical thing, my Jeep, it was that 5.7 liter, like the fastest, most horsepower Jeep you could get. Got like 8.5 miles per gallon. But yeah, that 626, I hated it every single time I got into it. And I tell people like with that logo, like I might push you to design something that's going to be more generally accepted. But if every day you look at it and you hate it, then yeah, you're driving a car you hate and it's not enjoyable. So I tell people the first most important person is you, of looking at it every time and enjoying it. And you're like, oh yeah, I just really love this thing. And screw everybody else that might not like it as much. Over time, if you grow and you invest in branding, then it won't matter. Because I mean, it's like Starbucks. I bet you the first people that saw what the hell's a mermaid? Why does that have to do with coffee or any of that stuff? I'll be honest, I still have no idea why a mermaid has anything to do with coffee. Yeah, exactly. And it doesn't matter. Yeah. And so that's what I tell people is like, oh no, the only person right now that matters is how you feel about it. Yeah. So. Do you feel like you have a mind for branding? I think so. I think it's going like if you go on my LinkedIn, it just says creative problem solver. Yeah. I think that's what it is. I'm able to look at it and poke holes, be contradictory about it, and be realistic. Yeah. I think that's kind of what my knack is. And then I'm big on that. A good graphic designer is very, very prideful and very, very like they're competitive and they think their stuff is better than anybody else's, where because I don't feel as strong in graphic design, like I'm big time stealer. Like I look at everybody else's stuff, who's their competitor, who's not their competitor, what's out there working that looks like it. How can I take bits and pieces from their stuff and make it work for this? Yeah. And I think because I know I'm not the best designer, is like I don't have any pride in it. So it's like, I mean, not that I'm pride. I'm not cocky in it to where I'm like, I'm right, you're wrong. It's just like, let's figure out what's going to be the best. Right. So I think that kind of helps me out with it, is like knowing that it's not all based on design. I think, yeah, knowing what branding is better or not. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So when you work what's the difference between working at a business and doing design for them versus, freelancing? Freelance stuff. I mean, business stuff, it's kind of,
Like corporate design, I mean, it's the same things where I treat the departments as clients, because you still got to make them happy and it's got to accomplish the goal of what you're trying to do. But it's more or less they're just needing something pumped out real quick. Like for me, like my process is like when it comes in, I'm like, okay, is this something that needs actual thought and needs the brand side of it thought about, or is it just they need a flyer, they need this? And so I have a designer that he's happy just doing the flyers, he's happy just being a graphic designer. And if it's something that like, okay, it requires more thought, we need to do a landing page incorporation with this campaign, and then it's got to go into this automated email system to where now it's a whole kind of flow, and those are the kind of things I take on. But it's not much different in the fact that you're dealing with different departments that have different goals, and you still have that one person that has their own timeline in their mind that you got to finish it by. And with freelance, really the only difference is, freelance is harder and easier. It's easier in the fact that because I'm usually working with people that have never worked with a graphic designer, they're usually, oh, my cousin designed this for us, or I had the guy at Kinko's design this for us. So whenever I do something simple, it's like mind blowing. Yeah. But then it's a lot of busy work in freelance. Like it's a lot of like little things that I don't get excited about. And when it's my personal time, it's like, do I want to do this, go play with my family, or work on a personal project or something like that? Or do I want to go work on this layout for some other company when I'm like, oh man, but they're paying me money, so that's good. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, it's, I don't know. I think the only difference freelance is that it's stressful because it's my time. That's my time that I'm selling versus somebody else, like a business. I'm there for them the whole time. Yeah. So that's probably the hardest part, is just knowing that it's my time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I could see that. Is it hard in the corporate structures? Do you feel like your ideas are accepted more or less?
Well, here it's so in the corporate world, it's probably that they don't care as much, like, because when your bosses are CEOs or presidents or CFOs, things like that, like they already think they know the solution, and you're just make it pretty. Yeah. When they come to our department, the creative department, things like, oh, you just need to make it pretty, and I'm like, well, no, that doesn't help us by just making it pretty. Like, what about these other holes that it's leaving? So it's a bigger struggle of trying to get people to think holistically, like think of a whole thing of like what it actually does, or what are you trying to do? Yeah. It's a kind of a weird situation where we're at, like, we don't have a marketing department. We have marketing partners. And so it's still kind of one of those sense to where like I'm essentially running just a little design and creative group
inside the corporation.
Yeah. And so that's the kind of part that irks me a little bit, is that I want to be solving more problems, like doing more marketing type stuff, but marketing design. Like, I don't enjoy marketing, but yeah, anyway.
No, I'm with you on that. I own a lot of businesses that don't do a lot of marketing. No,
well, it's the thing, like your business, like how much marketing, it's sales is what you're really relying on, and that's glorious. That's an awesome industry where you can rely on person-to-person sales. And when it's like this volume, dealing with alarms and dealing with this kind of stuff, where it's like, yeah, it's a whole different kind of world, a whole different kind of need that gets, I don't know, impersonal. It gets really just kind of mundane.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when, big corporations, even in, some of my smaller stuff, it's like you got just so many moving parts. A lot of opinions, some days, you just don't care.
Well, and it doesn't help in the creative world. Our kind of departments are viewed as just an expense. Like, we don't, technically make money on the bottom line. Like when I go over our budgets and I go over our expense reports and things like that, like there's nothing to kind of, yeah, we bought that camera gear, or we have these monthly charges for this and that, and there's nothing to come back and say, oh, well, that made us money. And so you never really looked at the same as other departments. Yeah.
Yeah, the sales team get the ping pong tables and the Coke machines and stuff, right?
No, it's good. They deserve it. They're making money.
No, absolutely.
No, in summer sales, I was the one that would yell at our techs because I was on the installing side. I'm like, they're going door to door, turning paper into money. They deserve it. If you can do that, if you can turn paper into money, man.
So how would you compare your experience at Vivint compared to like Fluent?
Oh, I mean, it was, so I was done with, so I was only there as we were rebranding to Vivint. That was my last year as it was rebranding. And so up until then, it was a lot the same, to where because Blackstone hadn't bought anything. Blackstone didn't exist. Like, we had some big, huge investors to where, like, okay, it's changing a little bit. They're keeping track of what money we're spending, what we're doing. But up until then, it was kind of back then with the summer sales to where it's like just cash everywhere. Yeah. People getting paid too much. Nobody knowing really what things are costing or what's going on. Yeah. And so, yeah. So it was a lot of the same, because Fluent was kind of that same way, where there wasn't a ton of oversight on what's going on. Fluent was a lot more chill, just because it was smaller, and kind of how it was ran. It was just it was a lot smaller, and so that changed things. But yeah, no, it was still that kind of same flash.
Yeah, I got it.
And shine and sparkle. And
was there a lot of pressure when they're switching over to
Vivint? Like dealing with the rebrand, or I mean, there was a lot of fight. Like, it was a struggle. There's a lot of opinions and a lot of. I mean, it was the reason. Like, everyone thinks like, oh, it's because they've made such a bad name for themselves. They're a door-to-door salesman and have so many bad reviews and things like that. It had nothing to do with it, but. And it was.
What was the decision to change?
Well, I mean, a big part of it was, so they were trying to buy apex.com for years. And a guy in California had that URL. And so they went down. So Todd and Keith, they flew down there and met with them, and they settled on a price to buy the URL. And the guy reneged on them and upped it a ton. And so it's kind of more of a screw you. We're just going to rename the company. Right. And so for years after that, he was like, his website, he started a website just bashing Apex Alarm. And so they were, that was another fight. But yeah, it was just like to be able to get their URL and think more globally. It was also kind of, I mean, when they dropped Apex Alarm, it was get rid of the pigeon toe. But yeah, I mean, you had Todd, who had his kind of like what he wanted the logo to, what the name to be, and other people had what they thought, and the orange was a big fight. Oh yeah, nobody wanted to be orange.
What about, did you remember some of the other names? Are you allowed to say them?
Yeah, well, one of them we used in like a spin-off video, a video that I did at Fluent, where making fun of door-to-door knockers. It was called Dwellent. So that was one. Todd loved that name.
Okay. And
so Dwell Intelligently. So it's along that same lines of Vivint, where it's Live Intelligent. And so Dwellent was Dwell Intelligently. And so we wanted to create a fake alarm company for this. Have you ever seen that video? Like, is door-to-door stereotypes video that we did at Fluent. And it was funny. It was fun to do. But my boss was so afraid of like using a name that he knew Todd had any association to, so I had to call it Todd and be like, hey, or I texted him, said, hey, can I use this? And I'm making a funny video. Can I use this name? He's like, yeah, I don't care. So we branded shirts and stuff like that. But it was almost Dwellent instead of Vivint.
That would have been wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, did you like the name Vivint? Do you remember liking it or disliking it?
For me, like.
To me, it was wild.
For me, branding wise, I hate fake words. That's kind of my thing, is I hate fake words for companies, because I feel it's cheap. Like you just
Yeah.
it allows you to have the URL, you get to make, but it means nothing.
Right.
Like still to this day, even though it's been around for years and years and years, you can go door to door, wherever, and it still means nothing.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, it just doesn't feel organic to me. Like when we went to Fluent and we rebranded, because it was Titan Alarm and Strike Alarm.
Right.
The Strike was the US name and Titan was the Canada name. And when we were looking at rebranding it, they're kind of wanting to go that same way, but I wanted to use a real word, and it takes a little bit more struggle because you can't buy fluent.com. Somebody already owns it, so we had to use fluenthome.com, and there's a little bit more struggle there. But when you're able to talk about like, hey, we speak security, we speak automation, home comfort, we speak home, it gives more of an organic feel of why are you called Fluent? Oh, well, yeah. Oh, sorry, we speak home.
Yeah.
And so that was my only gripe about Vivint was it was it was a way out of having to do that.
Yeah. No. I remember they changed it, and I was just like, man, that is a weird word.
Yeah.
You know, but like, I did like the logo.
Yeah, no, the logo's great.
I thought the font was dope. You know, still the same font, right?
Yeah, it's all the
They
same.
never changed it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and the name now. I mean, you know, we got the Vivint Smart Home Arena, and you know, I mean, here obviously here in Utah, every flipping person knows it. But see, in one of my companies, you know, ADP Lemco, right? Like it is the weirdest name. Right? And the thing that's funny about that, so ADP is a company my dad started in '84. Stands for Architectural Design Products, right? ADP. Also came out at the same time as automatic data processing.
Yeah.
Right? So I've had people, when I became president of the company, like 27 years old, right? I had people call me and they were like flabbergasted that I was the president of ADP, because, you know, we'll say ADP for short, right? And I was probably young, I was really young in my career, but I was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? Like, the processing company. I'm like, no, dude. I'm like, bro, that's like a Fortune 100 company.
Yeah.
Like, they like give economic data to, like, you know, the SEC and stuff. Like, no, this is a little company in Utah, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then when my dad ended up buying Lemco in like 92 or something like that, right? And that stands for Lillenquist Engineering Manufacturing Co., right? Lemco. Now, Lemco, in Utah, you've heard of Lemco carpets, right?
Yeah.
But then when you combine those two words together, it means nothing. Right? I mean, and giving my email out is harder than crap to do, right? Because it's like, you know, Mark M at ADP, and I always go A as in apple, D as in dog, P as in Paul, L as in lemon, you know, just the things. Because it's like, let's just get to the chase, because you're not gonna. And for some reason, I always say it sounds like Lemco with an L at the end. Whenever I speak, I must slur my words or something crazy. But I try to rebrand it. So it used to be Lemco Visual Display Boards, right? Which is way too long, and then ADP Sports was the other one I tried to do, you know, for all the athletic equipment that we did. But in my industry, ADP Lemco is specified, which is like 85% of my sales comes from general bidding, right? And it was going to cost me millions and millions of dollars to change that, because I'd have to get a hold of every architect.
And their Rolodexes, you're there.
And at one time, my dad tried to change it to AL Inc., which is worse. Right? Like, that means nothing, you know?
Yeah.
And so, cause I kind of lean to your side. It's like the name needs to say something about what.
Well, and that goes back to like your brand is more important than your logo.
Yeah.
And so your brand is who you are, and that story is what matters. It's not the logo or the name or things like that. But yeah.
Wild world.
Well, no, and it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's because it's so digital and everything's so worldwide now instantly. Like yeah, it's proving. You go on Amazon and all those products that people are buying every day, most of them don't even have a logo. Oh. Most of them, you care less what the name is. You go click to the reviews, read it. Okay, it's not garbage.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll buy it because it's going to be here tomorrow.
Right.
And so yeah, so it's getting more and more to where it's not that important as much as your story that you're telling.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. The story, because you got to endear yourself to a brand, right?
Yeah.
And I love Nike. Right? I buy a lot of Nike stuff. I don't even know why. I mean, I like the design work a lot. I like the colors he used, But, I kind of like Phil Knight's struggle. I kind of like him taking a waffle iron and making a sole and competing with Adidas and
out of the back of his van.
Adidas. But it's like, branding is, it's crazy important.
Yeah, no, it's
people latch onto it like insane, right? Louis Vuitton. I bought my wife a Louis Vuitton purse.
But they're not buying it for the logo. Now they're buying it for the logo.
Right.
But they're buying for what it says.
Yeah.
They're buying it for the branding.
Yeah, exactly.
That
little showy off thing and, kind of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But one thing I noticed with Louis Vuitton, like all high-end brands, they have so many knockoffs. So many people can buy them. They're not rare. They're not really luxurious. They're well made. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. It's kind of human nature, right? To just buy stuff. But so when your clients, how many clients come to you with a clear vision of what they want, and how many of them do you really have to prod along?
It depends on what they're wanting accomplished. So I'm trying to think of one that's a safety shot who I saw in one of your posts. I did that deck.
Yeah.
And so when I was meeting with him, I was like this, because I did that deck probably 8 months ago, 10 months ago or whatever. And I was trying to push him. I'm like, hey, there's this brand. They're gonna be huge, and this is the style. And it was Liquid Death.
Yeah.
And I'm hey, I know it's crazy.
The first time that I got you to do one, right?
What's that?
The safety shot. Remember 4 years ago?
Oh yeah, that.
It's the same company.
Oh, that's the same guy?
Same company.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that was the same guys that were running that thing there, because I thought it was funny. I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, same thing.
So same thing. But I was kind of like, hey, we need to be a little bit crazy. These guys are opening the door. This is freaking water.
Right.
And again, they're building that brand of this is freaking water. People at the office, I make fun of them when they're drinking it. I'm like, it's water. I
drank 3 of them last night at a pub tournament,
That is great. That's brilliant. And so with Safety Shot, when I was going through that deck, it was very, very, very medical and very whatever. I'm and a lot of it is me trying to push them into what I know is going to do better. You're going to be selling this at bars. You're going to be selling this alongside Red Bull and Liquid Death of non-alcoholic drinks that people will have with other things, and if those are sitting on the shelf, how are you going to fare? Yeah. And even the can that I designed up for them just for the deck, that's super too conservative. Yeah. So it is a lot of it, the prodding and pushing, and it's knowing what your limits is, because this is something that people are bringing to you that is so close to their hearts. It's so personal that they've been staying up till 2 a.m, 4 a.m, slaving over this thing or working on it for years and getting it to this point. And then you come in there and tell them no, that kind of sucks. That's not going to go over well. And you've only known them for a week. And so it really is coming to something personal. It's something they're building from the ground up. I don't care as much, of course. And so maybe that's why I'm being a little bit more frank with people. When I come in and say, hey, the name is just your company, that just does not sound good. When people are talking, it's gonna and so I have to kind of read the person on kind of how they are. And a lot of times, if they are too just close to the chest, I'll be I'm probably not gonna be the best one for you. Yeah. If they're just wanting me to push out stuff that they're just feed me, that's probably not going to be the best. Right. If they're coming in with an open mind of hey, let's figure out the best way to do this, and they're giving me actual time, that's where it gets really fun, is when you're able to really mix it up and have fun with it.
What's a fun brand you've built in the last little while, or one that pops in your head?
Brand stuff, the one that's probably the easiest is when we originally did Revive. Yeah. That was probably the most recent one, to where that was a 20-minute logo. Then coming up with the IV symbol for social and things like that, and that they're coloring, and they did a great job just running with it, of that style. Because the whole concept was, when you're going with influencers, like, you want you want your brand to be something that's posh and cool. Like, oh, I'm being sponsored by this cool looking company, and it looks cool on my social media influencer board or whatever. And so that one was fun just because it was so easy. It was so effortless to kind of like figure it out really quick, and it just goes. Logo wise, like, one that designed was Bread Boy. That was another quick one that Mark shuffled damn it. Brett shuffled my way, and they're like, "Oh, they're
twins, bro. You're fine."
I know. It's horrible. And then when you, Brett and Brent get together, heads explode.
3 bearded big bros.
Yeah. So during the pandemic thing, they're wanting to deliver bread, and so that one was fun of me.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And so I wanted it to be like, oh man, the name is like so 50s. Like, let's do a 1950s looking logo, a loaf of bread with a big old smile, and he's holding a buttered knife. And so that one was fun to where, just to kind of, I mean, I never met the guys in my life. It's always over the phone. Yeah. But to kind of see it click of like, I don't know. Then I do a design, and they see it, and I'll mock it up on a van, or I'll mock it up on different things. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's fun. Yeah. And so that was a good one, logo-wise. I really enjoyed that one. I'm trying to think of other ones where it's been kind of a branding trip. But those are probably the ones closest to my brain. It's kind of like when somebody tells you to tell a joke. Yeah. They all go away.
Exactly. I'll tell you one that I thought was cool recently. I don't know how recent it is, but like Crumble Cookie.
Oh, yeah.
And Crumble got that right.
Yeah.
They got their logo right. They got the whole... I mean, crumble. Why does that even mean cookie? Like, you'll never hear the word crumble again without thinking cookie.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, my friend down in Waco, Texas, they own milk bottle cookies, and
like the dog treat milk bone.
No, milk bottle.
Oh, milk bottle. Okay.
Yeah, milk bottle cookies.
I thought.
But down in Waco, they got a store and a bakery, you know, kind of in the little, I don't know what you call it, like posh little shopping area.
Yeah.
Chris and Joanna Gaines kind of made Waco famous or whatever, right? Boutique style stuff. So, but they're crushing it. They're doing great. You know?
No, it's...
We are an insane culture that we will spend $5 to $6 for a cookie.
Well, yeah. Well, not only that, it's becoming a service world to where people are understanding trading money for time.
Yeah.
Of like, for these luxuries, like people are like, I'm not making anything great money or whatever, but it's one of those things like, man, maybe for Christmas I want to get my wife a cleaner that just comes and cleans only our bathrooms and our kitchens once a month. And that's trading time. I mean, my money for her time of not having to do those things. And it's those same things for cookies. And it's so easy to make at home, and it's just one little luxury thing. Yeah. But that's what it's coming to, because all of our other basics are just taken care of now. So I don't know.
No, but yeah, right. We actually have cleaners come in every Thursday, because it takes the pressures off of me.
Yeah.
Because by then my wife feels like the house is, dirtier than it needs to be. They come in, they clean, then I come home for the weekend, everything's nice and clean, and me and my wife never talk about me cleaning anything. Never clear my plate, I guess, sometimes.
Yeah. No, another brand, because we brought Crumble, the spaghetti franchise. Have you talked to...
What we're working on?
Yeah.
By the bucket?
Yeah. Are you bought in on that? Okay, that was another one that went together way too easily. Yeah, because he was all about Crumble and wanting to follow that model and that style.
Yeah, Paul was.
And
he's one of the guys I've done a podcast with.
Oh, really?
So yeah,
it was fun. He's one of those guys where it's almost too agreeable. Like I need a little bit of fight to kind of push it a little bit harder. So
we were laughing on that, right? Because if you don't have the meatball in there, does it look like Asian noodles?
Yeah, it looks like ramen.
Yeah. And dude, we went to a lunch down at whatever that golf course is in Provo, right? Riverbend or...
Oh, the country club one?
Yeah,
okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I've only been there a few times, but there's a bunch of bros down there, so we throw the logos out. There's a couple different fonts and stuff, that you've done up, and dude, just listen to people have different opinions. We're grabbing every waitress, dude, every server. I mean, one of the guys we were with, like, wanted the cooks to come out, like everyone's opinion on it, dude, and it literally was, like, right down the middle.
Yeah. Well, no, and it's one of those things where it's like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Right. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Because my logos, to me, I kind of appreciate them more than I have an opinion on them, right? Because I think it's cool, guys like you come up with. Font, for some reason, for me, is like where I get an attitude. I'm like, no, that font looks like garbage. And people will be like, oh, really?
And designers hold fonts like baseball cards. Like it's like these. You have your go-tos that you're like, oh man, these are my go. Like I love these fonts. Yeah. And I mean, they change over time, but fonts, typography, that's where it's like, it's beautiful of like how it can change a logo like instantly by just typing it out.
Oh yeah, or thinning one out, or making it thick, or like just something. Completely
changes it. Yeah. And it's one of those things. It's fun because of that effect of how much it changes.
Yeah, it does. It's a blast. Yeah. So what's the new thing you're working on?
Oh, right now nothing new. So Revive changed over to Modwella, so that's been keeping me busy.
Oh, they changed their name to that?
Yeah, they changed their name to Modwella. There was another Revive IV company. I don't know where they're at.
Oh.
And so they gave them a cease and desist. And so we changed over Modwella. So that was
Modwella. What does that mean?
So we were throwing around names. Like I really wasn't getting in the game of like throwing out name options. Like at first they were like, we really want to keep the IV thing in the name. My only input that I was giving them is like, it doesn't matter type of thing. Like, then I can't remember what name they came with. And then I changed it slightly to Modwella and it just kind of worked. And I put a tag with it, modern wellness, like bringing modern wellness home. Yeah. So, cause they go to your house. And so then it just fit and worked well. And so, and again, it was one of those ones where like, they were really stuck on wanting a symbol, like a logo symbol. And I was like, the font looks good enough, but they really wanted a symbol. So we added one that to me, it like cheapens it. Like if they would have stuck with just the font, like it would have looked a lot higher class, but I think they like the thought of having a logo on a hat or a logo on a shirt, things like that, rather than just the text.
The text.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, like going back to your font thing, like nailing that is more important than the symbol. You can always add the symbol later.
Or change it, right?
Yeah, but nailing that font, nailing like what that evokes in the people that look at it by just looking at it is more important. And but so that one been keeping busy. The Idaho stuff, I've been trying. Like I need to really get into it because like every time I put stuff up there, people buy it. So I just need to.
So explain to me and the viewers what you're talking about.
Well, with Ida, I have my company is called 208 Design Co. Is like my freelance company that I run everything through. Years ago, I was like, I really want to create an Idaho brand, and I was just starting to just diarrhea designs because like for me to pound out 10 different designs in a week is really easy for shirts. And I would use a third-party printer, the direct-to-garment printer, and so I would never see the quality. I'd never touch anything. I just did the design work and set up a store, and it was going fine. We changed jobs, moved back. This was when I was in Rexburg. We started up that life insurance company.
Right. Yeah.
So I was moving back to Idaho, and so it kind of just dropped off. Didn't have time really to do it, and so I just gotten the itch lately again. But it was kind of on the side of like, now that I'm in Utah, I'm wanting to wear Idaho stuff, kind of represent Idaho. Idaho is a big part of who I am, of like growing up on the farm and all that stuff, but I don't want to look like a tourist.
Yeah.
Is kind of the new twist where I'm being really picky on what I'm wanting to put on the shirt, put on the hats and things like that. Like that one's very touristy to me. Like
I love it.
Yeah, no, it's because of Patagonia. I mean, that's the only reason. I mean, it's a rip off.
Well, I hate Patagonia. But I like this.
No, good.
Maybe I like this because it's kind of like anti.
Well, when I first, because I did that design a long time ago with the Tetons, and they sent me a cease and desist because I had it labeled as Idahonia on Etsy and stuff like that, and I think they must have a service that chews through descriptors and things like that, so I'm just can't brand it or market it that way. But along the lines like this hat's one of our hats where it's just kind of like if somebody else from Idaho saw this hat, they would know that I'm from Idaho.
Right.
Because, I mean, the 208 is up until like 4 years ago, we had one area code for the whole state.
Oh, they get another one?
Yeah, they finally got another one.
What is it?
I have no clue.
I hated it when Utah got 435.
Yeah.
It was like the weirdest thing. I grew up in a world where like you didn't even use an area code.
Yeah.
So my area was 756, right? So every person I knew.
Well, that's what it was up until 4 years ago in Idaho. Like it. Yeah.
People.
Yeah, it's like Seinfeld, that episode where she got her phone number changed. Yeah. But yeah, so the whole thought is like, oh, it's the 208 original. You're one of the originals, type of thing. And so, yeah, so it's just kind of wanting to go more streetwear styling, and I don't know. It takes social media to move it along, and I hate social media. Yeah. Like I'm in design and marketing, and I talk social media every day, but I hate it. Yeah. So yeah, so it's kind of just more slow going. I have an Etsy shop that I do tractor shirts.
Oh, cool.
So I threw a bunch of stuff on Etsy.
So what's a tractor shirt?
Like an old Massey Ferguson tractor shirt, like their logo or some saying or artwork and things like that. Like I was thinking along the lines like, oh, I should do some farm shirts. Farmers need some style. And nobody was buying the farming ones, but the tractor ones were going crazy. And so I just started going that route. And so so it's been going well for that. But then the Idaho stuff is just kind of like, if it goes great, it goes great. If not, I'll have some cool shirts I can wear. Right. But yeah.
So you thought about coming up with anything else, like track pants or some joggers?
Oh, clothing wise, no. no. My, you know me. Like my curse in life is having good ideas and no resources. Like I have ideas for businesses and things all the time, but I have nothing to get them done. Or I'm too lazy to get them done, or I hit one roadblock, and that's why I'm probably stuck in corporate design, corporate creative.
Well, you're in a good company though, right?
Oh, they're great. Awesome. No, they're great. Yeah, no, it's great. It's got good owners from that era of when I was doing alarms, and I mean I've been in alarms now for 20 years, so it's just something I know.
Did you start selling? Or
when I was on my mission, my brother went and sold alarms in California for some no-name alarm company, and it went horrible. And when I got back off my mission, he told me, like, if you go sell alarms, you're not my brother. Because I was talking about selling pest control or something like that. Yeah. And so I'm like, man, is it really that bad? He's like, they're all horrible people, whatever. And but I knew all these guys that were going out making tons of money, and so I'm like, oh, maybe I can go spray pesticide. They're all going to go do pest control. Right. So I'm like, well, maybe I can go spray it. I know I can work harder than the next person to me. I grew up doing things that nobody likes doing. Yeah. And so I went and sprayed pest control, and it made easy money. I was like, I'm never going back to farming. This is too easy. Yeah. And then after that it was alarms, and I did the install side of things. So I would go door to door during the summers when things were slow, but that was never my primary income, was door to door. Yeah.
No, it takes a special guy to do it. Over the years, I mean, some of the top performers are amazing. Oh no, it's something I absolutely respect, is somebody that's able to go out there day after day and knock doors. And I did it one time here in Utah. Yeah. So my friend wanted to break away from whatever he was doing, some other sales job, And he's like, talk to me. I was like, man, I've always wanted to like see what it'd be like lying on a door, And he's like, come do it with me one day, So I took work off that day or whatever, right? Was there two of you on the doorstep? No. Oh, okay, good. Split up. Yeah, we split up. Yeah, I knew that was going to go bad, But we ran into other salesmen. You know what I mean? Kind of like, peeing on the ground to like mark our territory, kind of thing. It was just like, oh my gosh, dude, this is not me. I didn't sell any. I got no one interested. I think we were like reselling service for alarms. So we were like going to like houses that already had ADT or the Vivint sign up or whatever the other ones were at the time. And we were basically being like, well, how long's your contract? And if you're close to the end of the contract, we just wanted to sign you up for a lower rate over ours, So you just just kind of poaching. Right. And, dude, I knocked a lot of doors. I bet I knocked 300, maybe 250 or 300 on the 2 days that I did it, each day. And at the end of the third day or the second day, I was just like, never again. Like, I'm done. Like, this is not my jam. I didn't sell one thing. But I'm like a weird salesman. Like, when I go, like, people will call me up. They want to come check out their home, right? Because they want to help put a home gym in. I'll go down there, and I'm like, yeah. No, you don't need 3 hoops in here. You only need 1. Like, you didn't build your room big enough, Like, you're going to slam 3 hoops in here for what,
Yeah.
People are like, well, don't you want to sell more? I was just like, nah, I'd much rather have you just enjoy the experience, and have a gym that's freaking awesome that I can post on my Instagram later. You know what I'm saying? And so where we kind of sell it is on like designing the wood flooring.
Yeah.
Putting like whatever, one of the guys we did down in Elk Ridge, he wanted the Brooklyn Nets looking floor, right? It's like, sure, we do it, And like we did the whole thing and we went to do the lettering, the exact same lettering. Because it's not a public place, right? So there's no trademark or anything like that, right? That we're violating. And he's like, no, I love this. I just want to keep it like this. And I'm like, oh, come on, dude, let us go crazy. Like if you hate it, we'll just sand it up. You know what I mean? And he's just like, no, I was like, I like it the way that it is. And I was like, oh, dude, I want to just splash something fun on your floor, So when people come down, they're like, who did this?
Yeah.
And he's actually given us tons and tons of business. Tons of people have been referred to us from him. Because the floor is still cool, but, I'm just, when it comes to selling, that's fun to sell.
Well, and it's fun when you're the authority and you're the authority on the subject. That's type true. Of thing. Like, so we would upsell in homes a ton as technicians.
Yeah.
And I'd always tell people, like, the difference is just night and day. Like, the door-to-door sales guy, they knock on the door, you're immediately the enemy.
Right.
And they just want you to leave. And you got a good sales guy. So he gets in the house and he closes the deal. And when that sales guy hands it off to you as the technician and you come in, that door shuts and they're immediately like, oh, you want a sandwich? You want a drink? You want something?
Right.
Things like that. And they're like, no, I just got to get my work done, blah, blah. And at the end of the install type of thing, I can go around and be like, hey, he set you up. I got to give the sales guy props, make the customer feel like, yeah, I took him. He's like, man, you took him for everything.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I did. I'm like, hey, but here's some holes.
Yeah.
And then I'm able to go through. They just saw me install and do a great job. I built them up, and then I can go through and point all these different things, and they start buying stuff from me because I was the authority.
Right.
And but yeah, no, that when you go in there and you know that you're the authority, you know that you know better, and you've already built them up. Like when you're walking through these guys' houses, I'm sure you're like, dude, this is beautiful. You've done such a great job with this and that and the other. You get into the gym, you're like, okay, now this is my world that you've invited me to, and I'm going to take control.
Yeah.
And you can, no, that's a great feeling when you're in that situation.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'll tell you, one of the gyms we did, and I got to leave them unnamed, but they ended up getting the old jazz floor from the 90s, the green one.
Oh, really?
Right? And the reason why I was frustrated is because what they needed to do is consult someone like me. So we go down there, they have a half-court gym, right? This is an amazing home, right? It was actually, looks like a rambler, but it goes down 2 levels into this hill, right? And it's a, square footage-wise, it's a monster, right? So we go down in this gym, and we've put our hoop in, we've done all this kind of stuff, right? And they're literally cutting the jazz floor up. And it says Utah Jazz across the baseline, right? And the dudes have cut right through the middle of Utah Jazz. The reason why is because the three-point line's an NBA three-point line. And they couldn't fit the three-point line in without hitting some of the outside walls. So they cut the freaking logo in half. And I was just like, dude, if you guys would have said something to like someone like us, we would just come in and sand off the three-point line. You'd get the full baseline, and we would just paint in a new line. High school and college are the same, I think.
Or you can just go flat along the baseline.
Right. Yeah. And I'm just like, you cut the logo straight in half, dude. I mean, you can still tell what it is, right? It's not like it's destroyed, but it was just 2 labor guys. Just they were told to put the floor in, so they're just making it work, making it fit.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh.
Do you look at most floors like that? Like there is, like, I mean, that's a nostalgic floor because you're from Utah, but when you're dealing with other, like, other homes is it most of it all new wood, or is it all used floors?
So most homes are new wood.
Okay.
So we nail in new wood, so it's just blank. So then we can do whatever we want because we have the dimensions and we do that. That floor is very expensive, right? Because you're actually buying the floor that they played on, and it's in panels. It's 8x4 panels, right? So then you got, and then they don't, they're for arenas, right? So they click a certain way and stuff. So when you retrofit them into a house, you've got to like cut all sorts of stuff and then repin it. And sometimes you actually add like wood to it. You know? Sometimes you have to add a skirt around the outside or something like that just to make the room work. But yeah, you see some things you're just like, no, like what are you doing? So, but like right now, like the pickleball is a huge thing. Indoor pickleball, people love having pickleball. But one of the problems is an indoor gym.
Do they play it on wood? Is that what they?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but if you put in volleyball lines and pickleball lines and basketball lines,
it gets a mess.
You got a lot of stuff going on because you have to do different colors too.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just do the same color; it'll just look like a jumbled freaking mess.
Yeah.
And I try and talk people out of certain things. Like volleyball lines is my big one. Right? It's like if you're doing pickleball and basketball, leave the volleyball lines off. Well, I can play volleyball, right? It's like you can absolutely play volleyball. But I would just grab some tape and throw it down because really you're going to play pickleball or basketball in here. You're going to play volleyball when you bring the family over for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Play the walls are out. What does it matter? Because it's just too busy. It's a lot. And so, but it's fun to design little like, what would you call it? Like little like logos of their family, throw a family crest.
Oh, I see. Yeah, to personalize it to them.
Yeah, make it like really cool for them. So.
Well, and try to give it that NBA flair. They all want that NBA feel and flair.
Yeah. Done
for their house. But
they should. I mean, these guys have $4 million houses. It's like, let's make this as cool as your kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
But it's pretty striking, you go down to someone's gym and it's like, you go through a glass door and it's like, dude, you got the Lakers floor, the Minnesota Timberwolves floor, like whatever, So.
Yeah, man, I'm sure there's probably more homes with floors like that than we all think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like people with pools, like in-ground pools. Like you never think about it in Utah until I have a buddy of mine that's what he builds pools.
Yeah.
Like I'd never thought that there would be that many people building pools, but
dude, me either. There's a lot of pools.
Yeah.
Especially if you hit like Arizona, Vegas.
Well, no, I mean just here in Utah, like how many? There's got to be a ton of in-home courts that we have no clue about.
Well, that's one of the pushes of our business. That business, is that we want to do more and more homes because it's decent margin. More than competitive bidding a school or something like that, right? So it's a little. Oh
yeah, I bet you there's way more margin.
Yeah, but it's also within market though too, right? Your gym, even when you put the nicest floor and the nicest basketball equipment or whatever, it's still one of your cheapest rooms, right? Because your price per square foot is just not that much. You just have your walls and it's just not that bad. But yeah, I mean, dude, we've done some pretty big hitter floors. I mean, we did Celine Dion's home, we did Mark Wahlberg's home. Both of them were in Vegas, and we haven't even hit the California market. But like Arizona is a huge push for us right now because a lot of people have indoor courts.
Because it's so hot.
Freaking hot to play outside.
What would you say is like some of what these people do for work or how they made their money? What would you say the most common is that you run into?
Business owner is probably the most common. Profession-wise, like industry-wise, honestly, it's just all over the place.
Is all over? But most of them are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
That own a business or start a business.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, some guy in Alpine just stuck in like a rec center. It's like 30,000 square feet. We put a mat hoist in there. So a wrestling mat hoist in a home. I was like, never heard of it in my life.
So it's the whole mat just goes straight up.
Uh-huh.
Not that they roll it up and then hoist it.
They roll the thing up.
Okay. I was gonna say, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I don't know what a mat hoist actually costs these days. I mean, by the time we install it and everything, I mean, you're probably $20K, $16 to $20K.
Yeah.
I mean, they're massive. They can lift up 4 trucks. And this guy liked judo, but I think he had sold a business to like File.com or like to Dropbox or something. It's kind of a fun thing, right? When you do these like real high-end homes because they're all called the client.
Yeah.
Because they want to remain anonymous. And half the time it's like, I don't know who the hell this guy is to begin with. Good for you, you're rich. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, we did like the guys, one of the guys from Overstock. What was that company that was at the point of the mountain for a minute? OGO.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, OGO, when they sold the Titleist, he built a really gorgeous home. And we've seen them all, dude. Like super modern all the way to like French rustic, or whatever the heck you call these things,
Yeah.
But,
do you ever, so one of my problems that I have is comparing myself to other people and their success, things like that. I'm not quite coveting. I don't think I'm coveting. I think I'm just kind of like, comparing myself and getting down on myself. Like, why am I not there yet? Because I deal with a lot of business owners and a lot of people that they put in the work, they put in the legwork, got to where they're at. And I mean, when you're in these homes, do you ever feel like that at all? Like comparing yourself or?
No,
I mean, you worked hard and got to get your
friends with a bunch of them.
Yeah. Well, it's not like in an evil, like I'm not happy for you, but it's like, oh man, why am I not more successful?
Me personally, no. I mean, I've seen a few homes that I'm like, one day, but I'm also weird in the fact that like I look at some of these homes, might get me in trouble. Some of them are just to be big. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like when you're hitting 15,000 plus square feet, like
what's the
you're
point?
just making up rooms.
Yeah.
And like one of the things I find funny, like people put bowling alleys in some of their houses, right? They'll bowl twice. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
It's like, okay. I'm way more of a form and function and minimalist person, than anything. Like my wife and I always tease each other because it's like we have like no design in our house, right? Like we're just like there's I don't know there's some people out there, men and women, that are just really good at like making a room look nice and putting a couch a certain way, and like Michelle and I are both like we need to hire an interior designer. We're just slap a table in, and my gorgeous freaking table I have,
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful table.
Yeah, I freaking love that table. Aaron helped build me a table for my house. It's like is it a 14 person?
I think it was 13 foot.
It's big.
Yeah, 13 feet long dining table.
We just talked about it in my earlier podcast today, funny enough, because I wanted it to be a 16 person one, and I don't know because it fits the room, kind of thing, long room. But then and my wife forbade me from having a table that big. And then when we brought it in, I was like, she is going to kill me. Like, this thing is
big.
Massive.
That was a big table.
And it's heavy, too.
Yeah, it was very heavy.
Gorgeous. But see, we just throw a little, like, runner down the middle and a couple candles or whatever Michelle's in the mood for that month,
And it fits.
Bam.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just like it simple. And so some of these big houses, and they're amazing, right? The design's amazing. Some of the technology's amazing. But honestly, I cannot see myself buying a house bigger than 10,000 square feet. I'd rather own 10 houses.
Yeah.
In 10 different locations because there's just a lot of wasted space. Rooms that don't make sense. A lot of utilities you got to run through them. Just like. And don't get me wrong, if that's your jam, good for you. But like, I don't know. I've also been in homes that are designed so freaking well that I'm like, who's the architect on this one? And I'm writing it down in my, on
just
my
to keep,
phone.
yeah.
Because it's like.
Then those are the ones I'm mostly kind of like thinking about is like, because everybody's at different levels to where they're like, if I just a little bit harder, worked a little bit harder, did a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I should have.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's, I don't know. I've also seen, so I knew a guy that bought a house and he bought it for $12 million and he pumped in like 20.
Crap.
Right? And it's ginormous. It's gorgeous. It's an amazing house. But I'm like, and he's very, very wealthy, right? He's actually right? Very wealthy. And he was like 40, and I get a little twinge on that one probably, like, dang, dude, like, why don't I take like more chances? Because to me, investing is very boring. Like a lot of people that know me will hear that all the time. I'm like, it's very predictable. I'm not like big risk guy. I have crypto. I have crypto mining machines and stuff like that, right? But like, it's like 2% of my whole portfolio or less, probably less than that, And then you get these guys that are just like, no, dude, I freaking took 98% of every dollar I could find. I slammed it in crypto 5 years ago. And it's like, that takes some balls. And now you have an amazing house. Good for you. You know what I mean? But yeah. Yeah, you know, I guess in my current house, the one thing I wish I had was a basketball court. But I didn't design the house. I got a good deal on it, kind of thing, and then yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it's just something I deal with.
Yeah, yeah. I actually kind of like yards better.
Yeah,
like if you have a really impressive yard, that's kind of where I start getting a little.
That's where you got to get in that turf, man. Remember, I was asking you about that used leftover turf. I still want a turf plot around my house.
Dude, we are very into turf now. Very, very into turf. So I actually think that the government is going to mandate federal buildings and schools and all sorts of stuff to get rid of their grass.
Well, that's where I'm at when they tell me, like, hey, you got to quit watering your lawn. And every day I'm driving to work, they're watering the city buildings. I'm like, I'll stop when you stop.
Exactly.
And,
absolutely. I think everyone thinks that.
Yeah, and so but I hate spending the money on it, but putting turf around the house is expensive too.
Yeah, so that's the, see, if I was to design my yard again, I'm on almost an acre, right?
Yeah.
And my yard, my wife has done a really good job over the last few years, really like turning it, you know, our trees are starting to kind of mature a little bit because our house was a new build when we bought it. And if I could go back, dude, I would do tons of flower beds, tons of trees, you know, bushes, the whole 9 yards, barely any grass. Like barely any, and I will absolutely put in turf.
Yeah, no.
It's just a no-brainer.
Well, it's just any, like, front yard for sure type of thing. Like, we have this grass around our house that nobody plays on. No. It's just for the neighbors, I guess. Yeah. And that's where I want to put it. But, yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, our house is 1970s. You've been to my house.
I love your house, though.
1970s junk.
Your backyard's massive, though.
Yeah, that's why we bought it. Yeah. We wanted a big old backyard. And so now, like, we're putting a zip line along one side, and then we have tons of gardens going around, tons of strawberries, and
girls just going bananas.
Oh yeah, we did a 120-foot driveway and cement pad along the other side, so they're just riding bikes up and down.
I gotta come back over there. I helped you move in, and then
he helped me. Yeah, helped me move all the heavy stuff. I still remember that when you're helping me load up, and it's like the neighbor was like, I was gonna offer to help, but I saw you got your own Hulk.
Yeah, we got the big boy.
Yeah, you got your own Hulk, so I didn't need a help.
That's a good and bad side about me. So when I go to help people, like, hey, can you get the fridge? Like, by myself?
Hey, I was good. I saved you for only like 3 things. Like,
I know, dude. I know. I was like, I can pick up other stuff. You know, like, I'm here.
Yeah, no, I appreciated that so much.
I love doing stuff like that for people I like.
But yeah, no, we've redone. Yeah, we repainted the house. I enclosed that garage thing in, and we've got the yard all going. And
you a trigger out there or anything?
No, I'm a griddle.
Are you?
Oh, I sold my grill. Like, I'm all that griddle life now.
Was it
Blackstone?
Blackstone.
So the one I have has a little air fryer built into it, so you can get cook up pancakes and throw them in there and keep them warm.
Do you have it outside?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And no, I love making like we have a whole cow in our freezer, but I enjoy making smash burgers more than anything. Yeah. But yeah, no, I like.
Well, that's I am inviting myself over.
Yeah, do it. I've got the smash burgers down.
Really? That's
cool.
So I follow a guy on TikTok that like makes something new.
Oh, really?
Day. Oh, he's done like stir fry, ham fried.
Oh, you can do everything on it,
dude. The thing that got me was his breakfast burritos.
Yeah.
I was just like,
not only that, but like you can make them all at once. Exactly. That's what's nice.
Yeah.
Is you have half of the whole thing is just full of the hash and all mixed up, and you heat up your tortilla shells.
Yeah, those tortillas, he's slapping them all together. He made like 48 of them or something insane. Maybe it was 38. I don't know what it was, but his daughter had a sleepover. I'm just like, I'm on the toilet, obviously, because it's TikTok time, right? I'm just like staring at my phone like, this guy's freaking awesome, His like teenage daughters had a sleepover with like 9 girls. He's made like 40 burritos, and I mean, literally made a ton of them. Man, I think he has a bunch of boys too.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's just.
No, and the cleanup's super easy, and no, I love the griddle.
So have you tried doing any like hibachi stuff on there?
No, like breakfasts are awesome because again, you cook the eggs, the bacon, the pancakes at once. Yeah. And it's just so nice to have everything done at once, and it's all hot.
You make like McGriddles, dude.
Yeah. No, I've watched videos of those where like, they have the little forms and they make everything the same size type of thing. That's a little bit too much for me. I rarely eat breakfast, but no, but burgers. It's the simplicity of it. I love that. If you can make something as simple as a burger and have it be really good.
Yeah.
That's where it's at.
Do you do the onions in them?
What's that? No, I'm not an onion guy.
Oh, okay.
My wife is, like the Oklahoma onions, burgers, whatever.
Oh, is that what it is?
There's Texas or Oklahoma, I think, is one that smashes the onions in.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've just seen a lot of guys do that. They smash the white onion in right as they're cooking, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so I don't, but no, mine is like, I'm only maybe 3 ounces per patty.
Okay.
And I smash them as thin as they'll stay together, so they just get crispy all around it. So I'll stack 2 or 3 on a hamburger. Yeah. But I like that crispy, caramelized beef.
Yeah, oh yeah. The way God intended it to be.
That's right. That's right.
I'm very much a meat eater. I respect all the vegans out there. Good luck. Best of luck with your flavorless life. But dude, yeah, some of my friends are starting to realize my OCD when it comes to like my food that I eat. Right. So like I refuse to eat avocado mayonnaise.
Really?
I can only eat best foods, and it's in my head, and I know it's weird, and I know it's stupid, but that's like my thing. Right? Another thing is like half fat ice cream makes me want to throw a fit.
I didn't know there's a thing called half fat.
They try to ruin ice cream every day.
Yeah.
You know, xylitol gum is the sweetener or whatever. It's like, dude, make ice cream. Actually, make custard. That's what you really need to make. But like, you know, if I'm going to eat ice cream, don't rip the flavor out of it. I'd rather just not eat the stuff. You know?
Yeah, because I'm sure the people that are like thinking they're doing something good for themselves, I'm sure they're just eating it, not enjoying it either. And so it's not accomplishing anything. It's
Save themselves 60 calories.
Yeah, well, not only that, the hiked price on it and everything. They're just...
Yeah. See, my thing is like, you know, saving 60 calories, it's like, I'll just get up and walk. I'm 300 freaking pounds, man. You know, all I got to do is walk around the block, and I'll burn that before I hit the corner, you know? And then enjoy my life.
Yeah, now that you're 41, dude, you got to get on it.
Oh, 41, dude. That's coming up real soon. It's like I just barely feel like I had my freaking birthday party. You know?
I know, that was a big old bash.
That was fun.
That was fun, dude. That was
a lot of fun, man. I had a lot of people. Dude, I only invited people I cared about. And there was like almost 200 people that showed up to it.
Yeah, no, that was a shindig if I ever saw one.
Did you stay for my wife's speech?
Yeah. Yeah, okay, no, cool. She did a great job.
Yeah, dude.
She did a great job.
She gets a little nervous with the public speaking, but, you know, yeah, she felt a lot of love. Pizza, I think, was pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Stone-baked personal pizzas or whatever.
Pizza, the ice cream was incredible.
That's what I heard. Yeah. I didn't get to it. But
yeah, no, that was really good.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun, man. 40th birthday, my gosh. Well, cool.
It was good seeing your parents. I haven't seen them in a long time.
Yeah.
So
they're fun. My very first podcast I recorded was with my dad.
That's what he said, and like I'm like I need to see that. I'm excited because I mean I've heard the briefs of his story, but yeah, no, I'm excited to watch that one. Yeah. Listen to that one.
I think anyone that knows me or definitely knows him is going to find that really interesting. And you know, it's funny doing a podcast, right? Because it's like, I mean, I'm modeling it, I guess, a little bit after Joe Rogan, which is like the most successful podcast that will ever exist, most likely, right? And I have like zero expectations for this. I mean, well, and people listen, but
it's the model's nice to where it's not a forced topic.
Yeah.
To where you're forcing anybody to talk about anything particular.
Yeah.
I mean, you bring in people that have their focuses of expertise, and of course, it's going to always tend to that way. But everybody just wants stories. That's what they want to listen to, is stories.
Yeah.
No, and your dad coming to America and being able to build that's. Golly. Yeah. I mean, we joked about you writing, but he needs to write a freaking book. Golly.
Oh, he could. He should write a book. He'd absolutely love that. I mean, he just needs to do a life story and put some stories in there. He's a good storyteller. So, me and my friends, I'm in this guy group called We Are the They. You know the guy?
Yeah, no, I saw, yeah.
And it's funny, so we went down to our first like activity, right? And we had to write down 50 things that make us badass, right? Which you're like, freak, 50 things. Don't even have 50 things. You start writing things, blah, blah, blah. And one of them I wrote on there, I write good poetry, And I used to do that a lot, like back in the day. And so the last couple of months I've tried to write,
Was that back in your emo singing days?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I love emo music, bro. Me and Aaron love emo music. You've kind of forsaken it, though. You don't listen to it like you should.
I know. It's the talk radio and things like that. I still, like, on the drive here, it was Jimmy Eat World.
Was it good?
Oh, yeah.
I should have drove down to your house and grabbed you for Taking Back Sunday, though. Did I invite you to Taking Back Sunday concert?
You did. I don't know if I could handle a Taking Back Sunday.
Yes, you can. And if you can't, we'll leave.
Like, Jimmy's the only one that's left on my bucket list of, like, okay, I need to go see Jimmy.
Oh, really?
I've never seen Jimmy Eat World live.
Dude. Let's go.
And so,
does the wife like it?
She's okay with it. She doesn't like emo that much. She's a classic rock gal. That's what's always fun with her.
Oh, is she?
Oh, yeah. She is.
Well, that's cool.
She loves classic rock. Like, oh, man. Van Halen and Def Leppard. Yep. Yeah. She's been to the Def Leppard concert. Yeah.
Well, that's fun. It's actually kind of a heyday for them right now, right? Because a lot of those guys are touring.
Yeah. Oh, it's back now. Well, think about it. All the retired people with money to blow.
Yeah.
And then you have the kids. Everybody's wanting to wear those shirts now.
Yeah.
And they realize who they are, and like, oh, now it's cool to go.
They turn some good music out, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't really ever get the itch to turn Motley Crue on per se, but like when some of their songs come on, I'm like, oh yeah, that's one. Yeah, that's a good one.
But yeah, back to your list of 50 or.
Oh yeah. So I wrote,
your poetry and.
Yeah, I write good poetry, right? And it blows people's minds that I used to write poetry. Now, is it good? It's very subjective, right? And but I've realized, dude, as over the last 20 years, really, you know, I've like just turned the right brain on and just lived in Excel and like reports and trying to grow and like make good financial decisions and investing and blah blah freaking blah, like all the boring crap. And so I'm trying to like recreate the creative side, you know. I think that's why I love stuff like branding and doing logos. Like when you send me stuff over, dude, I'm always like, oh, it's freaking awesome, you know. Like
I know it ticks me off because I need pushed.
Well, let's do it. I'll freaking push you. I'll kick you off a cliff. But so I've been writing a lot of poetry recently. And sometimes I write it and just throw it away. And sometimes I actually do it on my phone a lot. I just have a note that I just go all the way down that's just poem after poem after poem. But they're all kind of songy too, you know. Kind of the same thing.
It's what we know.
Yeah. But so we're driving home from this group, and I'm with a couple guys, and you know, we've all just bonded hard, you know, like been vulnerable, talked about stuff, did some hard stuff, you know. And we were talking about poetry, and we're literally just driving home. We're like, hey, guys, let's all write a poem about jumping off the cliff, right? So I have this text thread right now, and then we're just all throwing in our poems. Like, it's wild, man. Like, it's really cool. I mean, we're a bunch of, like, 35 to 45-year-old bros just, like, writing and sharing and, you know, like this whole kind of thing. But when we were driving, like, they're kind of looking at me like the authority, and I'm like, hey, guys, listen, just because I said I'm a good poet doesn't mean anything, right? I said, I do like it, but let me explain something to you. This is how you make good poetry, okay? You got to tell a story and have the other person understand what you're saying to them. If you can be a storyteller through poetry, that is where you're going to connect with people the most, and they're going to end up liking your poems the most, right? And it's been really cool, because now that these guys are throwing these poems in, we're really like kind of connecting, and you're like reading it as a story, and it's like, oh, I see how you felt about that when you jumped off the cliff. So I ended up going first. I was really fighting it, right? Like, and I was literally one decision away from not doing it. And if I decide not to do it, it's over. Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to talk me into it, you know? And so I just get up and jump, do it really quick. You know, and the whole way down, I'm just thinking, what the flip? I cannot believe I've jumped off this stupid thing.
Well, but is it also at the same time, I can't believe I had a hard time with this?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I actually, so as the rope caught me and I swung up, I actually said out loud, which was really weird, that I go, I'm proud of you, right? And I was just like, what the heck? That was weird. Why am I getting all emotional? You know? and then I got up to the top of the cliff, and like, you know, all the guys are there to hug you and blah, 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 you know? And then I just started encouraging everybody, right? Because then it became fun and like enjoyable, and like the energy level just kind of like went through the roof. And yeah, it was an awesome experience. And now I'm like, yeah, I don't care what you throw at us. Like, we're gonna walk on coals, and I'm sure Jimmy will come up with all sorts of crazy crap for us to test our will or whatever. But like, kind of jumping off that cliff is just kind of be like, whatever you throw at me, I'll just do it, and then we'll just keep going, because, you know, you're not gonna hurt me. Like, none of this stuff's gonna hurt. It's just gonna, you know, it's all mental crap. So, But yeah, I don't know why we're talking about that.
Yeah, no, you're getting into your poetry and.
Oh yeah. So on that list, so just gotta, I'm just trying to become more creative, and that's why when we talk about different things, I'm just so engaged in it because it's just fun to see what you're coming up with. And
well, it's definitely a muscle. It's absolutely a muscle. Yeah,
absolutely.
So
So a final thing I'm going to ask of you, I want you to give your best 2 minutes of advice. And if that's 5 minutes, great. And if it's 30 seconds, great.
My best 2 minutes of advice.
You can go life advice if you want. You can go business advice if you want.
Well, I have no business advice to give because I've never done one. My life advice is probably it's along the same lines that everybody's probably heard, and it comes from the fact that I haven't done it. Like, I've always kind of attached my wagon to somebody else's. Mm-hmm. And now that I'm going to be 42, that's my biggest regret, probably, is always attaching my wagon to somebody else's. I don't know where that came from, of why I always felt like that. I'm sure it's an insecurity. It's kind of the same way I'm always saying I'm a terrible designer. I'm a terrible this. I'm not that good at this or whatever.
Yeah, everyone knows that's a lie about it.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like, my biggest advice would be is like, you got to unhitch the wagon at one point. Is taking that risk or doing something all the way until it's either dead or done. Mm-hmm. I have a bad problem with that as well, where I look at myself and I'm like, I've never taken something hard to either one of those ends, mm-hmm. to whether it's dead or it's done. I'll take things pretty far and kind of like, oh man, that could be good. But out of fear of like finding out, what's the guy where the cat isn't really dead until you open the box and find that the cat's dead. That theory of,
yeah, but I couldn't quote it. But
it's along those lines where it's pushing past that line or not being afraid to open that box. Yeah. So my first one is finding something probably in your life that you could unhitch your wagon, whether or not that's on your free time or if you're just stuck in a spot, unhitch your wagon.
Yeah.
I see people that have done it, and I don't know why it's so hard for me to want to unhitch my wagon, but I'm sure you can go a lot faster when you're unhitched, and you can get to that point a lot quicker of opening that box and whether or not it's gonna live or die. I don't know if that's advice or mostly just kind of like, hey, don't learn from my regrets type of thing. I don't know. Is that along those lines? I don't know if I have advice. I don't feel like somebody that's has the ability to give advice. The only other thing I always say to myself, like, I don't know how to make a quote. Like when you go onto Google and you quote, there's websites where it's like Quotely or something like that. I'm like, hard work fixes everything. Like, that's probably my advice, fortune cookie side of things is if you're in a bad spot, if it's in your marriage, family, work, financially, things like that, like if you work harder, it's gonna fix it.
Yeah. And
so it's just pick up the shovel and work, and hard work fixes everything.
Yeah. I think that's great advice.
And so I guess that's kind of take it where you want it, but.
So I'm gonna ask you one. I'm gonna phrase it a little bit different way, because one of my goals of the 50% of this podcast is so if I die in a car wreck in 2 years, my kids have video and audio of me like talking to my friends, people that I care about. And so if you were to look your two little girls in the face, what advice would you give them if you had crossed over already? What would you want them to hear from you?
Listen to your heart on what feels good and what feels bad. I mean, I talk to them every day about that. That's kind of my parenting, is when they do something wrong, I immediately bring them over into a hug, like I almost hug them, and I ask them right now, how do you feel in your heart? How do you feel? And they'll right away, as little kids, they can tell you, like, I feel bad. So do you think what you just did was good or bad? Like, I'm not evoking any negative or positive. I'm just quizzing them real quick.
Yeah.
And they know the answer. And I think that that ability, I mean, in the church, the Holy Ghost, that spirit, that light inside of you, things like that. And I think we lose it, or we ignore it, or we shun it, or we push it down to try to get an outcome we think is better than what's going to come. Yeah. And I'd probably say let's stay as close to that as you can of inside yourself feeling like, okay, is that actually good, or is that actually bad? Yeah. Or is that my mind, or is that me forcing a good feeling? There's a lot of things that people would want to do, and they tell them that it's to make themselves feel good, but does it really? In their heart of hearts, does it really? And so I think that's probably like one thing I'd want them to do is stay close to that. I mean, aside from that, is like, I would only ever tell them, like, I love them endlessly. Yeah. Like there's nothing I can't imagine. And it's so cliche. It's absolutely so cliche to say about your kids. Like, I can't imagine not having my 2 little girls. Yeah. And that there's nothing like being a girl dad. Yeah. I mean, with your little girl, the way it makes you feel as a protector, as a father. I mean, it does so much for you as a father, but then how grounded you are as like these 2 little girls. But that's probably one of the biggest things I would tell them is like know that feeling and be brave enough to follow like what's right and what's wrong, truly.
That's excellent advice, my friend. Yeah. Even today.
And I would tell them, like, if you ever get lost, you just call Mark, and he'll help you out.
You should. I'll come get him. Hey, this is Aaron Zeyer's daughter. I'm like, where are you? What do you need? I love that guy.
Oh no, they're good little girls. They are great little girls. We're so lucky. We are so lucky. They're sweet little girls.
Yeah, we are lucky. Well, thank you, my friend.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me in. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to the President McCormack Podcast, brought to you by McCormack Foundation, Saxton Fund, ADP Lemco, and Professional Floor Systems. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and keep up with Mark on Instagram @President McCormack.